Today we're diving into something, well, a little different. It's a fringe geopolitical theory from our source material that tries to explain the conflicts we're seeing right now, not through the usual lens of politics or economics, but through something far more ancient and, according to its supporters, way more powerful.
So, let's just jump right into the big question this theory puts on the table. What if global events, what if wars and alliances aren't just random, chaotic happenings? What if the key players are actually following a pre-written, ancient script?
Okay, so this whole idea really boils down to three huge predictions. The first is that the US is going to bring back a national draft. The second is that for all the tough talk, no tactical nukes will actually be used. But it's the third one that's the real bombshell here, the one that this entire framework is built on, the prediction that the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the third holiest site in all of Islam, is going to be destroyed. Now, before you think that sounds completely out of left field, the theory tells us to first look at a few pieces of a puzzle. Some really weird statements from world leaders that, if you look at them through a traditional lens, just don't make any sense at all. So, first up, picture this. U.S. Senator Richard Blumenthal has just walked out of a top-secret, confidential White House briefing. And he's not just concerned, he is openly dissatisfied and angry. He says he has more questions now than answers, and, this is the key part, he feels like the U.S. is on an unstoppable path to putting boots on the ground in Iran, something that would almost definitely require a draft. Then you flip to the other side, and you get this absolutely wild exchange. A journalist from NBC asks Iran's foreign minister point blank, "Are you afraid of a U.S. invasion?" And his answer isn't fear, it's excitement. He says, "No, we are waiting for them," basically calling it a trap they've been setting for 20 years. The reporter was so stunned, he literally had to ask the question again to make sure he heard it right. And if that wasn't strange enough, get a load of this. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is asked what book he's reading. He holds it up. It's about the ancient wars between the Jews and the Roman Empire. Then he says, the next war against Rome we must not lose. I mean, who is Rome in the 21st century? The theory suggests he's making a bizarre coded reference to the United States, Israel's #1 ally.
Okay, let's pause for a second. You've got a U.S. senator who sees a march to war he can't explain, an Iranian official who seems to be cheering for it, and an Israeli leader talking about a future war with his best friend? None of this lines up. According to the source material, it's because we're all missing a huge piece of the puzzle. And this is exactly where the source material introduces its big idea, the key it claims will unlock this whole mess. It calls it the law of eschatological convergence. Okay, first, we need to get our heads around one key term, eschatology. Put simply, it's a story about how the world is going to end. But the source says it's the most powerful kind of story there is because it gives believers a complete script. It answers the big questions. Where did we come from? Why are we here? And where are we going? For these believers, it's not just a story. It's like an operating system they have to run. So that brings us to the main event, the law of eschatological convergence. The theory goes like this. When you have different, even totally opposing end-time scripts that actually agree on a few key events, when they converge, those events become almost guaranteed to happen. Why? Because now you have multiple powerful groups, sometimes even enemies, all pushing, all working toward the exact same goal, whether they realize it or not. This really sets up two totally different ways of looking at the world. Conventional analysis, the stuff you hear on the news, sees world leaders as rational actors, making decisions based on economics and national interest. But this eschatological analysis sees them more like characters in a grand play, motivated by a need to fulfill a prophecy, to follow a divine script to its final act. Right, so to see where things might converge, we gotta look at the scripts themselves. And the source is very clear here. We're not talking about mainstream beliefs. We're talking about the most extreme, accelerationist versions. The people who aren't just waiting for the end of the world, they are actively trying to make it happen faster. So what do these scripts actually want? Well, according to the source, the goals look something like this. Extreme Jewish Zionists believe they need to build a third temple to force the Messiah to come. Christian Zionists want to speed up Jesus' return, and they believe helping with those events in Israel is the way to do it. For Shia Islam in Iran, the goal is to set the stage for the 12th Imam, the Mahdi, to arrive. Meanwhile, you have Russian Orthodoxy with its Third Rome prophecy, which sees Moscow as the world's final spiritual center. And then there are even certain strains of Catholicism that believe the Anglo-American Empire must fall for a new city of God to rise.
Okay, so you have all these different competing end-of-the-world plans. The billion-dollar question is, where on Earth do they overlap? Where do these opposing scripts actually agree? This is where the theory claims its predictive power really comes from. And this is where it gets really wild. The theory claims there are 4 huge points of agreement. Number 1, the Al-Aqsa Mosque has to go so a third temple can be built. Number 2, a one-world government will be set up based in Jerusalem, a new world order the source calls Pax Judaica. Number 3, a massive final global war, the War of Gog and Magog, has to happen. And finally, number 4, for any of this to be possible, the 2 biggest players on the world stage, the US and China, have to be taken out of the picture.
So if you take those points of alignment as a given, the theory then maps out a pretty specific and pretty terrifying sequence of events that it predicts will all go down in just the next 2 to 4 years.
And this is the final roadmap the theory lays out. It starts in year 1 with US troops on the ground and a draft that sparks chaos back home. Year 2, the Al-Aqsa Mosque is destroyed, pulling Turkey and Saudi Arabia into a war that devastates them. By year 3, Israel expands into a greater Israel, and this new Pax Judaica system kicks off. And it all wraps up in year 4 with Russia winning in Ukraine, which triggers the complete collapse of NATO in Europe. It's a shocking chain of events, but from the theory's point of view, it's the logical conclusion when all these scripts converge.
So look, whether you think this is a genuine insight or just a wild conspiracy theory, it kind of forces you to ask a really big question. It makes you wonder about the power of these hidden scripts, the myths, the prophecies, the end-of-the-world stories that might be pulling the strings of world leaders in ways that traditional news analysis would never, ever see. What role do these deep-seated narratives really play in shaping our world?